welcome to the show, PB&J, Pioneers Builders in Jacksonville. Co-host JD and I are very excited to come to you today with another episode. JD, how's it going, man? It's good to see you.
Thank you, Randall. Yeah, it's going great. It's a beautiful morning here in Northeast Florida. It's Friday and getting to speak with you, amazing human beings. So glad to be here.
Appreciate that. I know we have a special guest today, and I know we're eager to speak with her about business and life and everything else for that matter. Can you kind of share with us who we're spreading the good word with today?
Yes, we are going to be spreading the good word with Miss Yara Banks, owner and CEO of BNX Business, and really looking forward to our conversation today. So
thank you, gentlemen.
For joining us.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, welcome, Yara. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to kind of kick things off. I know how we met. We kind of got together because we were, visiting the same town hall to hear about local business opportunities, especially for small and emerging businesses here in Jacksonville. And that's when we came to find out that you yourself own your own business. I'd love nothing more because you'll be able to explain it better than JD and I ever could. But can you kind of help us better understand what the business entails and how long you've been doing that?
So my business is BNX Business Advisors. We're an integrative human resource solution provider. We have services nationwide. What does that mean? So here it is. We do human resources and we do business consulting. So we do them both separately, but we also integrate them together. It's one thing to come into an organization and talk about, you got to be nice to your people. You have to give them benefits. But when you can show the real dollar and cents behind every move that you make regarding your human capital or your people, your biggest asset in the organization, then that speaks volumes to those who are in the capacity or in the position to make real change, which is usually your C-suite or your owners.
Yeah, absolutely. JD and I have been in the people business for a while. Me, 7 years, him, 60 or 70 years.
At least.
And so we're very well aware of what it means to take care of people and make sure that organizations put people first. I'd love to know, I think it's a great business concept. I love that you're, integrating with people at the C-suite and working your way down and making sure that the people feel felt. How long have you been doing this? And if you don't mind helping us out, kind of steer us into the direction of how you decided to make this leap into your own business.
Okay. So first of all, BNX Business Advisors has been around for almost 3 years. But the type of work that I do with human resources, with operations, I've been doing for close to 30 years. Okay. So I've just only been doing it for myself within the almost 3 years. It all kind of got started for me at a very young age when I was my first job out of college, right? I worked in corporate America, the whole cubicles, everything, that's big time, right? I think I was making a whole flopping $25,000 a year and I was rich, right? So I worked this call center environment and I loved going to work every day. I really did. First job out of college. Okay. And the reason I loved going to work was because something was always going on. Somebody was sleeping with somebody. Somebody was going to argue. Someone was going to cuss somebody out. Somebody's going to get fired. The manager's going to throw things. There's always something going on. So I was all into you think Ricky Lake, Jerry Springer age, right? The reality TV. And so I was so excited to go to work. And then one day, I'm just being transparent as I can here, folks. This particular day, doing what I normally do, about 15 minutes before my shift ended, I had to go to the restroom. And that's where you ride out the clocks. No other calls come in at 4:59, so you can leave at 5, right? So the restroom. And there was somebody in the stall, in the handicap stall. And you can hear them fumbling around. And I wasn't paying much attention, but then you could hear them like on a low whisper. And so I thought, okay, what's going on over there? Being nosy, I'm just being honest. And then you could tell it wasn't a whisper, it was actually like crying. Then, of course, I'm intrigued. So I'm washing my hands a little slower, trying to see what's going on. And then next thing you know, is this cry, that this almost an animalistic cry that you can't catch your breath and you can't speak and something's wrong. So I'm banging on the door. And I don't know who's in there, but I'm saying, come out, let's talk about what's going on. So finally, the lady answers the door. There's this puddle of a person in front of me, literally, just a puddle of a person. and she can barely talk, and she's motioning, and she's got something in her hand, and she's trying to say, and I'm like, what's going on? And I look, and she has a handful of pills.
Mm.
And I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? You know, and she's saying that she has children at home. She's a single mom. She can't deal with the toxicity in the workplace, but she can't quit because she's got to feed her babies. But she can't quit because she has to feed her babies, but she can't keep coming here. So the only thing she knows to do is go to sleep and not wake up. And in that moment, I felt so convicted and so guilty because my entertainment was at the detriment of another human being, and I never ever considered that. And in that moment, I knew that at the ripe old age of like 21, there was nothing I can do to change this situation. But that anytime I had the opportunity to intervene, to speak up, to help someone else, I was going to find that opportunity. And long story short, we did get her some help. I quit that job. And the very next job I got was as a civil rights investigator for city government. So I worked with EEO and fair housing. And so that's kind of how I started my career in really trying to help transform workplaces. And every job I had after that, whether I was specifically in human resources or civil rights or even operations, I made it my business to make that workplace a safe place for people to come to work because, you know, I'm an entrepreneur. Some of you guys are entrepreneurs, but not everybody has that in them, but they still have to feed their family and they need to come to work where it's safe and they can be productive. So that's really kind of where I got my passion for helping people learn, grow, and develop and protecting them in a workplace. But then how I got to being an entrepreneur was simply that I got the tug and the call, and I'm a believer, y'all. So from the Holy Spirit, multiple times in life, was not obedient. And through that, had a lot more trials and tribulations by not being obedient than I did when I was obedient. Let me just keep it real, right? And yeah, so being laid off and then breaking my neck to find another job instead of doing what I was supposed to do, you know, those kind of things. Being fired one time. But I finally said, okay, stop it. Stop running from what you're supposed to do and just do it. And that's how it kind of came about right after the pandemic. Okay.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that story. It's always interesting to hear, you know, the different catalysts in our journey that move us from one place to the next. And even though it took you years to realize your calling, you were still building and gaining tools along the way. So that's super impressive that you were able to do that. So thank you for sharing. That's awesome.
And let me just say this too. I'm a wife. I'm a mom of 6. I have multiple businesses. I founded nonprofit organizations. There's different things that I've done in my life. I do it all for this, for legacy. And the legacy, when people say legacy, they oftentimes are talking about financial wealth. And I'm really not. I'm talking about a mindset legacy. If my 6 babies can watch mama build something from nothing, and then whether they choose to do it or not, they know that they can. Yeah. And that's the type of legacy I'm talking about.
Yep. That's the kind of legacy. I mean, obviously financial is a big thing, but you want to talk about lasting impact and, you know, if your babies, which I know we've talked and they're not babies anymore, but if they're
going to always be my babies.
If you know, if they see that they can do it and then they turn around and do it themselves and teach it to their kids as well, it's very clearly something that you can make generational.
Absolutely. So that why is what keeps me going. That's the why. That's the reason that I do this on the days that I have my snot bubble cries, on the days where I want to quit, on the days where I want to say every expletive come to mind. On those days, I keep going because my why is stronger than any of those other emotions that go along with being an entrepreneur. And
that sounds great.
Yeah.
I love it. You got me fired up.
Let's get fired up. I love it.
And obviously the why is fantastic. I think you've shared a really good story here about people who are going to inevitably deal with hardships through entrepreneurship, and, you know, relating back to your why every time to push forward is a great story. how about, let's talk about things when they're good. When you're making the calls and you're adding clients and you're able to make a difference, which I know that's why you're in business. Can you kind of help, we know what you do, but can you help better share maybe a success story or two about the company and how what you do can make a lasting impact in an organization?
Okay. So I can give you a couple examples. So one time I was called to work with this global company. They had a problem in their accounts payable area, and they were behind. Accounts payable is the area of the organization that pays the bills for the organization. Okay. They were approximately 8 weeks behind. And so literally they were getting lights shut off, the internet shut off, things like that all over the world because it was a global company. And so they brought me in to look at their workflow and the process improvement. At the end of the day, what we figured out, it was a people problem, not a process problem. And lack of motivation, lack of direction, didn't have any accountability. Leadership had a whole bunch of problems. So I had to do leadership coaching, leadership training, team building, setting key performance indicators, setting some expectations, teaching communication, emotional intelligence, conflict resolution. So that was basically what the end result was in order to solve the problem. It wasn't the process. It wasn't the workflow. It were the people. It was the people. And so from that, they were able to build back credibility legally. I mean, not legally, but literally credibility, because they lost some credit score on this, right? Build back credit score. They were able to stay on time and be on time and stay on time. They were able to build back their reputation with their stakeholders. They had other departments that was constantly following up. When am I going to get paid? When am I going to get paid? Their outside vendors, obviously like electric companies and things like that. They were able to build that back. But most importantly, the people had confidence. They had direction. They had some esteem in what they were doing. They all understood. Now we're on the same page going the same direction. So that one was huge for me because it totally was not what I went there for, but that was the end result. Okay. And another time, there was an organization I worked with that was through mergers and acquisitions. It was a financial institution that acquired another financial institution and then acquired another one. 3 organizations coming together in 2 years. And never at all through any of that process did they consider the people. So now you've got 3 different cultures, right? And 3 different set of rules, 3 different management styles, 3 different org charts that you have to all bring together. And so they had 14 different locations. So I literally had to work through that whole process, change all their jobs, their job descriptions, change their titles, training, onboarding, recruiting, every aspect that had to do with people except for benefits and payroll. Everything else I had to set for them. I had to work with them to get it. This is your vision. Now let's all get on page. And then change management. That's a huge thing. People don't like change. If you're going to change it, there's a certain way that you have to communicate it to the people who are going to be involved. And a lot of times you're just saying, we're doing this now. No. Why are we doing this? What decisions came into effect on how we're going to be doing this? How is it going to affect me? And what's the outcome? And that's how you have to communicate change. And they were missing a lot of that. And then they were doing some really good stuff, but then they weren't communicating. So it looked like they weren't doing that stuff. So communication became a big part in that factor, in that work culture.
Question for you about that, if I could interject.
Absolutely.
So, because I've been a part of organizations that have gone through the mergers and acquisition, and it's always a challenge. Is there a specific methodology or OCM plan or that you follow to help integrate 3 different structures into one functioning? I'm just curious what your process is to go do that.
Ideally, what you do is prior to the merger acquisition, you do what they call an HR due diligence process. So part of that kind of investigation to the HR piece is what is their culture and how is it going to align with us? So with a key factor in mergers and acquisitions is 92% of them fail for a failure to integrate the people. And that's huge, right?
Like I said, I've firsthand experienced that.
Right. Well, there's that part.
And it's a very difficult thing And so for you to say you kind of got dropped into the hot zone, it had already happened, dysfunction had been taking place, and here you are come in and fix it. And I'm just curious, like, where do you start? Like at the
So you
basic
always
levels,
start
like how
with,
do you get in that and start to peel the onion back?
so we start with having an understanding of where the organization now as it stands really wants to be. You do a needs assessment and you talk about your vision and mission. Where do you really want to be? And then you start talking to people. I literally visit every single one of those locations and sat down with the people who work there at all levels of the organization. What's working? What's not working? What do you like? What don't you like? What would you wish to happen? What do you need? And take that information from all those different locations and compile a report and then do a plan of action based on tackling those individual needs so that it now
Well, I would
becomes
imagine you have to have some pretty high level buy-in, at the executive level to give you free range to do that.
absolutely the best
And
part about you're right. The best part about being a consultant is you get to choose who you work with. I believe in working with authentic leaders. Okay. So when I'm talking with someone about working with me, I get a sense or discernment of whether you're authentic or not. And so in this particular case, that president said, listen, we messed this one up. And I know we need help and I have no idea where to start. And please help us. And in that moment, the fact that you could be that vulnerable and that honest about where you are and what you've done, I'll work with you. And so, yes,
then you're dealing with real
exactly
people that want to solve the problem. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's cool. That's amazing.
Exactly.
And how long was that process for you?
8 months.
From start to finish?
About 8 months. And
okay.
Yeah, it was out of state. And so I made a trip every single month for like a week at a time. And so there was stuff we did virtually, but then there was in-person stuff that like the training, interviews, things like that, that really needed to be face-to-face in order for me to build the rapport with the people. Because you got to think in an organization like that, there's a lot of distrust.
Sure.
And so, okay, so you don't trust him and you don't trust her, but I need you to trust me. And guess what? I trust them. And so it was one of those rapport building, trust building. If I can get you to trust me, then we can all work this out. And that was really the process behind really getting things done, to get them to at least, I don't trust them and I know them, but I don't know you. So I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. And, and so that was kind of how that worked. And I always, in those situations, refer back to when I say, listen, I tell people I don't work with folks who are not authentic. I have that choice. And I believe that people are authentic. Well, either they're going to verbalize it or their actions are going to say it. And in their actions, people put money behind things that are important. Hello, I'm here and I'm not free. Somebody put money behind this. They believe it's important. And,
No, that's a good point. And I think as business owners, something I've learned as a business owner over the last 13 years is, obviously money, you have to have money coming through the door to, expand, keep the lights on, all that kind of stuff. But it's also the time. And I think as a business, especially as a small business owner, really your most valuable asset is your time. And you have to choose how you're going to spend that time and who you're going to spend that time with. Like you were saying, I mean, it's hard because when you're starting out, you want everybody to be your customer because you need business. And then one of the things that I've learned over the years is I'm pretty selective on who my customers are going to be, because to your point, I need them to be authentic. I need them to be able to understand and appreciate the value that I bring to the table. And not that I'm perfect, but there's a real value. There's something they can tangibly hold in their hands, and it can be something that's recognized. So it sounds like a very similar path. And understanding on that.
It's important to me to work, because when I was in corporate doing this work, I was always what I call chicken winging people, putting your hand up behind the back and trying to make you do the right thing. And that was so taxing. For what? We're wasting time. And so now I don't have to do that. You're either going to be on my page and we're on the same plan, or handle it. Hey, how's that working for you? Let you do it. I don't spend a lot of time fighting and arguing with people about doing the right thing like I used to when I worked at corporate.
Yeah, and on that, I have a question for you. So you deal with, I think, a wider variety of more customers than I do in my business. But one of the hardest things that I've struggled with is you get somebody who's a good HR person, or you get somebody who's a good mechanic, or you get somebody who's a great attorney, but they're not good at running the business.
That's right.
Right. And so how do you insert your value to these business owners to help them understand that, you're there to help them set up their business properly so they can effectively be more effective and more efficient and ultimately more successful? How do you approach that with business owners when you're speaking with them?
Okay, so when I start speaking with business owners about what they think their needs are, what they think is their biggest priority, if they think it's their biggest priority, it's going to be one of my biggest priorities. But by having this problem or this hurdle, what are you losing? So whether it's I'm working 20 hours a day, I'm not spending any time with my kids. Okay, so we need to figure out how to get your time back because that's what's most important to you. Or I recently talked to a business owner who said that she left $750,000 on the table this year because she didn't have enough staff. Okay. You know what I mean? Wow. Right?
Yeah.
So staffing is important to you, but doing it the right way. So time is probably the most important thing that people need to get back. And then after that, of course, it's monetary. I need to figure out how I can scale. I need to figure out how I can cut costs. Obviously, turnover, absenteeism, low productivity, that all costs you money. So how can we get systems in place that will allow you to be free sale, like not free sale, what's the word I want to say? Automated process that are automatically going to happen whether you're there or not.
Sure.
And consistent process. Because a lot of small business owners don't have processes. They do whatever they do in the time that they do it, but they don't have a process to say every time something like this comes up, we should do this. That's why, particularly in human resources, having a employee handbook is golden. Same thing with the standard operating procedures, whether it's in HR or any process in your business. You don't have to use that brain power that says, oh God, this just happened. How do I deal with it? What should I do? What are the rules? Like you have the rules, you have the pause. If this happens, then this, then this, then this. You don't have to use that brain power. It's already there for you. So really, JD, I think the answer to the question is, I'm going to address whatever their biggest priority is and figure out how we can get them whatever they think they're losing. Okay, and it's usually time.
Do most of your customers come to you through referral, or are you actively marketing different channels? How do folks come into your radar?
Okay, so referral, absolutely. Networking, and also I use a online platform where people go to submit requests for consultants.
Okay.
Also, I am a Jacksonville Small Emerging Business certified Black-owned business and women-owned business enterprise. And so because of those certifications, I'm able to, not just because of, it's not just because of, but I'm also able to submit for government contracts and large corporate contracts due to supplier diversity and whatnot. So that's another place that I go to look for work for new clients.
And speaking of the emerging business group, you've also been able to help other businesses get certified through that process, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. So whether it is the Jacksonville Small Emerging Businesses, which is here in the city of Jacksonville out of the Office of Business Equity here in Jacksonville, or state of Florida, they also have similar certifications. And basically what it is that the country at large has realized the importance of small businesses and needing to give them a boost in order to compete with some of the large businesses. 99% of small state of Florida businesses are small business. 98% of businesses in the country are small businesses. But then we look at the companies that get all the contracts and all the business and all the money. So how can we give them a boost or an edge when competing with some of the larger companies? So with that being said, because you are small business certified, or disadvantaged business enterprise or any of those things, a lot of the government have set aside a percentage of their annual contract spend is saved for small businesses. And so if you are a small business, you can get a third party, in this case, it would be City of Jacksonville JSEB program, to verify that you are in fact a small business as defined by the Small Business Administration. And so you just have to submit paperwork, your business documents, financial documents, because part of being a small business is you can't have X amount of revenue. So you submit those documents to the third party, in this case it would be City of Jacksonville, and then they will then approve and verify that in fact you are a small business, a woman-owned business, a minority-owned business, a veterans-owned business, or disabled-owned business, based off of your documentation and an interview and a site visit.
Yeah, that's quite the process, and it's amazing that there's folks out there like you who could help companies harness that opportunity, right? So I thank you for doing that, because as we've talked, small businesses is the most of the number of businesses out there, and it's the folks that we interact with on a daily basis, at the grocery store or in between or at the ballpark with our kids or what have you. So I love it that you're so supportive and helping folks do that. So keep up the great work.
We have to work together. There's enough food for us all to eat. No need for competition, because there's only one Yara Banks. So I don't care if you have the same services I do, you offer the same things that I do, you can't offer them like I can. So if you keep that in perspective and knowing that the more that we can get together and group together and work towards making this small business ecosystem grow and flourish and thrive, the better we all are.
Sure. You said something there that piqued my mind here. What would your customers say are the top 3 things that Yara Banks does a great job at or brings to the table? I don't know. What would your customers say?
I would say, and I know this for a fact, I just got a reference letter yesterday from my latest client, but she says that I am willing to ask the tough questions. And I am a straight shooter. I don't do a lot of fluff. It is what it is. I call it like I see it. And ultimately I have a passion for the work that I do. It's not just a paycheck. It's really not about the income. It's about the outcome. And that's the truth of the matter. And so in some cases, I'll work with people because I'm passionate about what they're trying to do, even if they can't afford it. And if it's outside of my fee schedule, if I have to do a payment plan, if I have to, in one case, I actually did it for free because I felt like it was so important what they were trying to do, but they just did not have the funds to do it. So I think people can see my authenticity, my passion for what we do, and I'm just going to shoot you straight every time. And it reminds me of a job I had at Sears. I worked at Sears for 2 weeks, and I worked in the women's clothing department. And the question, do these jeans make my behind look big? Yes, ma'am, they do. Let's get a different size or a different color. And that didn't work too well with my commission and stuff. So I didn't last long. But yes, I'm going to shoot it straight every time. Every time. I will say I don't know if I don't know, but I will find out. Quick to follow up. I build relationships that are lasting way beyond a check or a contract. And people know that they can always reach back to me. They can always call me, and it's not billable. Just call me and ask what you got to ask. I'm not one of those people that are a penny pincher. I really genuinely want to help. And that is why I do what I do. And
Brandon, we can kind of running down here for a few minutes. What questions or thoughts do you have?
No, man, I'm glad that y'all are going down some pretty important rabbit holes here. I wanted to circle back to the JSEB because we talked about the percentage. Just for informational purposes, yes, 20%, at least currently as it's constructed, 20% of all city contracts
are set aside,
and they have to go to JSEB certified small businesses. And the other reason why I would implore as many small businesses as humanly possible to get JSEB certified. And obviously this is something you're passionate about. I don't know the numbers. I don't know the statistics on this, but I do know that there was a pot or a pool of money that was set aside in this stadium deal for the Jaguars that has to go to JSEB certified business as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're talking a multi-billion-dollar facility build, that it's not just construction, right? There's IT support, there's staffing support, there's an endless amount of things that go into projects like that. So I want to
Let me add this, because I think a lot of people miss this. In the government, everything from light bulbs to toilet paper, right, has to go on a bid. It has to go on a bid. So you don't have to be a construction worker, to your point. You don't have to be a service provider consultant. They need people, like just recently, they're over at the stadium deal. I just heard the other day they were looking for people with food trucks that could supply coffee, to the guys out there working. They're looking for people who can go and pick up the trash or the leftovers out there. They need people, like everything that you could possibly think about. So let me give you an example. I heard through one of the either JTA or Jacksport, somebody, that they only had one provider for the city that was certified as a small business to do detailing on vehicles. Think about how many vehicles the city of Jacksonville owns.
A ton.
So every time this multi-year contract comes up, there's one company certified to do it. So who's going to get it every time?
The one that's certified.
And even if you felt your company's too small to handle that many vehicles, 4 or 5 of y'all come together and submit for the bid, work together, share the work. So there's so many opportunities that are so minute that people don't think about. T-shirts, ball caps, uniforms, like just think about pencils, paper, literally. Like printing services, cleaning services, all of those things that would be available to small businesses who were certified. And not only that, but once you get certified, it didn't stop there. They have a lot of services, wraparound services and training that they give you. They give you opportunity to network. They give you the opportunity to showcase your businesses. There's a lot more advantages beyond just having this piece of paper that says you're certified. I mean, there's technical training. If you want to be a person who submits for the contracting bids, they have a training that's free to JSEB people that you could go to that teaches you how to prepare those proposals and how to submit them. It's called ICAT Bid More, Win More. And, great people willing to help you. I mean, there's so much that I can't say enough about how important it is. And you don't have to just do it for Jacksonville, state of Florida, United States government, all of those areas.
Yeah.
So we're a Jacksonville-based podcast here. However, I would say in most places across the country, in the towns and cities and counties, there are going to be similar programs out there. So if there's anyone that's listening to the show that's not in Jacksonville, Florida, check into your local government agencies and business initiatives to find out what kind of opportunities are there. So and I'll add that if you do work outside, because most of my customers right now are outside of the state. But if you are certified in a particular state, some of those states have reciprocal agreements. So even though you're not registered in the state of Pennsylvania, but you are in the state of Florida, you could just submit your paperwork showing that you are, and that still counts for the state of Pennsylvania in some areas. So that's
great.
huge.
Yep. The one thing that we didn't touch on, and it's how we met, is there's monthly town halls that are conducted in every district for JSEB as well, where they teach you about, and you were talking about businesses working together for, the greater good of winning bids and stuff like that. Gregory Grant, who's the director of JSEB, called them strategic alliances.
Yes.
So, you can attend a town hall. You don't have to be JSEB certified, but you'll learn, about different strategic alliances. You will certainly meet people that can help you along the way. Obviously, we met at a town hall and we're able to conduct this today, which is great. And then also they have representatives from JTA, JEA, Jacksport, JAA, telling you how you can win bids with their verticals as well. So it almost makes too much sense to do it, and makes no sense at all, in my opinion, not to do it.
Right. And with that being said, okay, so you're a small company, you become JSEB certified. There's a contract out there that might be $500,000, right? And you're saying to yourself, okay, I can do this, but I need more people. Do you have your human resource foundation set to where if you got that contract tomorrow, you can start hiring? Do you have a foundation? Do you have a handbook? Do you have applications? Do you have any of the documents that you need in order to ramp up quickly if needed? That is a portion of where I think a lot of small businesses fall short. If you get that golden goose, like, are you prepared to handle it? And so that's why we talk to a lot of people from BNX. We talk to a lot of people at small business area, because you can't just wait for it to happen. You have to be prepared. They say, be ready so you don't have to get ready. And so at least have that foundation set for you. And then as you build and as you grow, and this is for a small business, medium business, anybody, prepare your people to be successful. So I did a survey at one organization, 80 different job titles. Now, that does not mean that's how many people work there. That's just different job title names. And I interviewed them about what they actually do in their job. And I asked them, what's most important to you? Your title, your salary, or your job? Out of those 80 people, only 2 said that their salary was most important. Everyone else said the job, which means they like doing what they do, but they want to be successful. They want to be prepared. They want to have resources. They want training on it. They want to figure out how this can lead to the next great thing. And a lot of times what we do is we fall short, whether we're not preparing for disasters or, God forbid, the death of an owner or succession. Somebody quits, somebody moves, somebody's activated in the military, whatever the case may be. We don't prepare the next level to step up. We don't give them the proper training. We say, okay, you're the manager now. You've been here the longest, to your point, but you don't have any people skills. Yeah, you can do the job, but you don't have any conflict resolution skills. How do we prepare them, that middle management, to be successful? Because when it hits the fan, C-suite says it's middle management and the employees say it's middle management, but we don't prepare them to be successful. So one of the things that BNX does in particular, we have a leadership development series that's kind of like, I'm a manager, now what? That kind of gives you all of that stuff, that communication, the emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, having difficult conversations, engaging your team, empowering them, those kind of things, so that you can be successful beyond knowing how to do the tasks of your job. But how do you really become a successful leader? So that's one of the things that we do, because that's always, no matter which size organization, what type of industry, it's always middle management's fault. And they all say, but they don't do the preparation. So yeah, you might have a lackluster supervisor, but is it really their fault?
Well, what my experience has been when it comes to middle management, it's often been a high performer that gets elevated because they're a high performer. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're a great leader.
Absolutely.
And you're set them up for failure. And so
Absolutely.
That's amazing that you have a program like that to kind of help those folks, with a step to give them the tools to perform that role. So, okay.
Right. They got to understand.
What are some of the other ways that you engage with companies and businesses?
Sure. So we have the leadership development series. We also have a new pilot program that's a leadership development, but it's aimed at 16 to 25-year-olds, and it's in the hospitality industry. So let's say you decide that you don't no longer want to go to school, so you drop out at 16. So you're working at, let's just say, Burger King. Let's just throw that out there, okay? You're working at Burger King, and they're going to at some point need assistant team lead. They're going to need a team lead. They're going to need assistant manager. Okay, same thing as the middle management, but on a different level. These are younger people who don't have that much experience, so we treat them on a different level, but we still want to give them at least a beginner series of that same leadership series that we have going on. But we want it to be in hospitality, particularly because we want people who may not be college-minded, who may not feel education is important, to still be able to go and increase their earning potential. And so one of the things we're doing is we're looking for some franchisees who have multiple locations who will let us pilot a program in one of their stores so they can compare that store to what the other stores are doing. So we want to give people that opportunity to get involved with really training your people up. Sometimes people forget that if you do well, I look good. And like, I want you to do well, so that's less for me to have to do. And so customer service is part of it, having those difficult conversations, team building, and how to be individual leaders, even if you don't have the title. And there's authority titles, and then there's real leaders, right? Because you can lead on the front line, even though you don't have a title. And you can calm down stuff. You can reset. You can de-escalate. You can empower. You can, you can cheerlead your peer on, even if you don't have that authority title yet. So what does that look like? And how can we prepare you to be successful? And
so have you implemented that program somewhere, or you're looking for the right opportunity right now?
I got a couple opportunities out of state, but I really want to do it home. I want to do it here.
All right. Well, so for all you Jacksonville companies that may be listening to this podcast, if you have a franchise business and you're employing folks between 16 and 25 years old, you need to reach out to Yara so she can help you benchmark your business processes to make your company run better. So
yes, that plus, okay, I told you we do HR and we do business consulting, and part of business consulting is to help people start businesses. So next month we're launching a network. It's called Global Human Resource Consulting Network, and the purpose of that is people who are in HR are burnt out, don't want to work for corporate anymore, and want to start their own business can come together. We can do strategic alliances. We can build off of each other. You can learn how to set your business up for success. You can even be a certified human resource consultant. We're certifying that your business is up and it's correct. The foundation is set strong. So when you go to a corporation or a government to say, hey, I can take on this project, they know that you did some extra education to make sure that your business was sound before you started reaching out to them. So we're launching that in November. We are also, what's some of the other programs we have? We do have starter toolkits for small businesses who want to start laying the foundation for their company. There's a bunch of templates that they can start getting those forms built and getting their handbooks built. They can do it themselves. We have an app that has a do-it-yourself start your own business and a do-it-yourself HR courses on the app. I'm just trying to think of ways that, that we could put out there that we're helping.
Assuming that you can also help them go through all the paperwork, and they don't have to do it on their own.
Yeah. So
right.
People who want to learn, because I'm one of those let me learn, like teach a man the fish versus, fish for them. But we will do with you, or you can do it yourself. So if you need it done for you and you say, hey, I don't have time, I don't have a clue. Can you handle this? Absolutely. We do it every single day. So yes, we can help people do that. And it doesn't have to be a startup business. You could be in the midst of it. I had a client came to me. She had 50 employees, 12 different states, and didn't even have an application. Never did a job application, no handbook, no nothing. So I had to reverse engineer whole HR department. So now that she's compliant. Now, I don't know if you realize this, but every state has their own employment laws. And so I literally had to have the information for all 12 states, compile it into one document so that it applied to everybody for her company. So that's the kind of stuff we do. Compliance, I'm huge on. I'm huge on making sure that we're doing everything right. To that end, I just want to put this out there. This year, there was the Corporate Transparency Act that came out for all companies that are primarily, if you're an LLC, it applies to you. But basically, you have to register your personal information with FinCEN, the Financial Crimes Network, the United States Department of Justice. And if you do not do it by December 31st, there are huge fines if you were caught. Talking about over $500 a day and potential jail time. So that's to thwart the shell corporations. So if you guys need help with that, let me know. We can walk you through that process. And if you start a new business, you have, I believe it's 90 days from the day you start a business to also register. There are a few exemptions, but they're usually for those that are like nonprofit or like the corporation, the Inc., businesses in the INC, the Inc., and things like that. But for LLCs, they're trying to get these shell companies that are not really companies. They're doing drugs and money laundering. They're trying to get those out of there. So it's normally for LLCs, but there are exemptions. So I'm going to put that out there because when I know something is happening, I want to put it out that all business owners know that this is happening. It started January 1st. So here we are, October 25th. and some companies still don't know about it or haven't done it. So I want to put that out there. So I also want
I've
absolutely.
heard that.
Oh,
So that's good to know.
yeah. I like to share compliance issues, but I also like to empower us as business owners, small business owners in this Jacksonville community in particular, or anywhere your community is. I really want to empower you to start to give back. We heard of corporate responsibility, but just because we're a small business doesn't mean we can't get involved in our community. Doesn't mean we can't help feed the homeless, that we can't help do a breast cancer walk, that we can't fill up a 9-foot truck and drive to Georgia to help with the hurricane like we just did a couple
Sure.
weeks ago, that we can't do back to school drives. This is our community. We raise our families in this community. It's our responsibility to also work together to give back in our community.
Yeah,
So I
no
do
doubt.
want to say
The whole time, talents, and treasures, right? So
absolutely.
those are cornerstones of having a vibrant, healthy community. So to include the business side as well. So awesome. Randall, what other thoughts do you have or questions or talking points? We're
Yeah.
kind of getting close here to the end and want to make sure you're able to ask Yara whatever you have on your mind.
Yeah, there's a couple of things because I want if there's anybody who hears this or after we make this public and share it where people get interested and excited about your services or at least want to learn more, can you help us and anybody else understand like how you write certain things out or how you package them or how you partner with people to discover what the charges are for your services? I just want to
Okay,
give
yes.
people an understanding
So
of how you do that.
yes, sir. So really what we try to do, obviously a corporation that's global is not going to get the same fees as a small business owner, right? What we try to figure out is, like we talked about earlier, what are your priorities and what's your time frame? And then based off of that, we help you package your needs. So we do have some bundled packages, like we talked about the HR toolkit for just starting out. That's a bundled service. And if you just want the documents, there's a price for that. Now, if you want me to work with you, depends on how much you need and what are you trying to accomplish. You get a proposal that tells you what the fees will be. Now, we have payment plans. We can switch it up to 2 or 3 payments. We can do monthly payments. We do work with companies that will do like Afterpay. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of Afterpay and Klarna and some of those things where you can break it down. You pay monthly according to what your budget is. We do sliding fee scales depending on what it is and how many people are in your organization. There's a lot of different ways that we can do it. Like even our apps. I was just telling you about our app. Those classes on there. It's a one-time fee. Take the class, do self-enrollment, and you go through it however you need to go to, as much time as you need. If you need to work with me directly, we talk about the needs. We set a schedule. I'll say, hey, I think you need all of this. And you say, okay, that's a lot, Yara.
Mm-hmm.
So let's break it down. Okay, what are your priorities? Let's do it in phases. Get this done. See a return on investment. Then come on, let's do this. See a return on our investment. Come on, let's do this. See a return on our investment. So it's not a one size fits all fee by any stretch of the imagination. Again, the goal is the outcome. So I'm almost always willing to work with people to be reasonable about what our fees are according to what you have going on. With that being said, I also recognize, and we just spoke about this earlier, not everyone's my customer. So if you want to do things that are out of order or that don't really align with the proper way of doing things, I'm probably not your person. I'm just going to be frank about that. There are certain ways that things need to be done so that they are right and compliant, and I don't want to just piecemeal things together. There needs to be an order to how it goes. And so if someone's really trying to be compliant and really trying to get their stuff together, they'll be willing to work it out in terms of how it's supposed to be laid out. So that's there. So I think our prices are affordable.
Thank you. And just in case people are interested in maybe the app only, where can they find that? Is that something that's on the App Store?
It is on Google Play.
Okay.
And it's called Small Biz, BIZHR Boost.
Okay.
And so there's 2 classes. One is for starting your own business, and the other one is for starting your HR, doing it yourself with HR.
Okay. So it's on Google Play. Is there any future plans to put it on the App Store?
So I am a small business.
Yeah.
Apple is crazy rates for putting apps there, what they want. Like, I think it's something like a couple $100 a month, whereas Google Play is like $179 for the year. And just to have it there. So we started with 50% of the world uses Android and 50% of the world uses Apple. So right now I'm with the 50% that's more affordable for small businesses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Small
completely
business
fair.
decision.
So yeah, so that's where we are with that. But we,
Okay.
you can go to our website, bnxba.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Follow us. We're always putting out good information. We're always doing programming. We're always putting out, we got a ton of blogs that help people kind of get through a lot of these situations that we talk about. I have a book coming out 1st of January that's talking about HR. I do want to talk about one thing real quick, if you do not mind. I want to talk about, you mentioned earlier and you asked me about the good times. Let's talk about when it's not so good, because I think that's important. That's the fear that most people have. We need to talk about the fact that being an entrepreneur is not easy. And a lot of times it's not fun. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for the thin-skinned. It's not for those who don't have faith in something bigger than themselves and who don't have a strong conviction about what it is they're trying to do. As an entrepreneur, I have spent many days crying with my snot bubbles. I'm not afraid to admit it. I've spent many days praying. I've spent many days quitting. I think we quit about 3 times a week on average, right? Like, forget this, I'm going to go work at McDonald's, whatever the case may be. So you do have those up and downs, but you got to have a conviction in the why. That has to keep you going. You also have to know that you have to speak positively over yourself to the best extent possible. Because when you can continually to affirm yourself that you know you're on the right path, you're knowing you're doing the right things, you know you're planting seeds and they're germinating. And at some point you're going to have that harvest. If you can keep that in the back of your mind, on the top of your mind, really, as you plunge through this entrepreneurial journey, it's going to keep you going. There's going to be times when the clients aren't knocking on your door. They're not answering your emails. No one's talking to you. You haven't had a check in months. But you have to know that you're on the right path to doing it and your time will come. I remember I called a friend January 3rd, and she's first of all, have a village of other small business people who know what you're going through, right? Who will pray for you, who will yell at you, who will shake you and say, knock it off, pity party over, uninvite me. You need those people. So I called a friend, was having a horrible day, and I'm bawling, snot bubbles and all. And I said, I'm not doing this. I'm quitting. I'm going to go get a job. And she said to me, do you know the Lord? And so I hung up. I hung up in her face. I really did. Not because I was mad, but that was the reality check that I needed in that moment. What else can you say? There's nothing else to say after that. And because of that, I kept pushing. Not even 10 days later, I got a $30,000 contract. So I'm just saying that to just say that we never know when our time is going to come. We have to push through. The other thing is, don't expect to make $1 million in your first 3 months. Right? That doesn't work that way. They say most times you go 2 years without really making a salary. I mean, you pay your bills, you're breaking even, but not really making a salary and a profit. So expect that there's going to be that time. Somebody gave me a $30,000 check. That doesn't mean it goes into my bank account, right? It doesn't. So we have to think about it like that. I can tell you this, for my journey, the statistic says that only 12% of women-owned businesses make over 6 figures in a year. And I was blessed enough to do that in my first full year. And
Congratulations.
Thank you. But it doesn't always work that way. There's been some times when, oh my gosh, am I going to even make to the 6 figures, or am I going to make it to whatever? You never know what's going to happen, but that doesn't mean you stop. You push through, you have faith in yourself and something bigger than yourself. In my case, it's God. You have faith that this is going to happen for you, and you have to have the wherewithal to keep trucking. But if you have to pivot, if things are dire and you have to get another job, don't consider that a loss. Consider that a regroup, back up and punt. Still work it on the side, still keep doing what you're doing. But if you've got to do what you have to do to feed your family, there's no shame in that. There's no shame whatsoever in that. Just keep plugging along.
Because that's so important, I think, sometimes as entrepreneurs and business owners and go-getters and all this stuff, we look at things like that as a defeat. I would look at it, things happen in seasons and there's lessons in everything.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it is, God knocking you back because you need to take a step back and look at things from a different angle. And, but to your point, there's no shame in that, but learn.
Right.
But learn from whatever the situation was take it, retool, make improvements moving forward the next time. I can't tell you how many businesses I started as a young man and all kinds of things, and all of them failed, but I was failing forward. And ultimately, I was able to apply this. So thank you for sharing that knowledge, because I find that so important. And hopefully other folks find that encouraging and inspiring as well.
Push past the fear. Push past the fear. It's fear in everything. Stress is there, whether it's a good thing. You're stressed out, you're getting married. That's a good stress, right? But there's still fear in that. Push past that fear. That's how you're going to realize your true strength, is to push past that.
Awesome. Yara, one last question. We'll kind of end on this. This is a Jacksonville-based podcast. JD and I decided to start this podcast because the mayor declared that she wanted to make Jacksonville the small business capital of the Southeast. That's how, we all have been aligned with Gregory Grant, the director of Jacksonville Small and Emerging Business. So 2 questions, and they're of the same accord. What is Jacksonville doing right? What are they doing well for small business owners? And what are some things that they could be doing better?
Okay, so the JSEB program is working really well. People are getting involved. They're getting more visibility. People are really understanding the value behind it. Because JD, earlier you said I've helped people get certified. I have, but I never did, because I didn't see the value for me and my business until I did. Right? So people need to understand the value. I don't think the communication is out enough to know what the value of JSEB is. I like the fact that you can work with all the different city agencies, Jacksport, JTA, they even have Baptist Health in there. They have the school board in there. There's lots of meetings, lots of information out there if you're plugged in, right? So that's working really well. We still need more access to capital as small businesses, to real capital. There are some programs out there that'll say, you can get $2,500. Okay. That's something, but that's not real capital, right? But then a lot of times these programs, not necessarily the programs that are out in the community, some of them will say it's a reimbursement. So you got to spend the money first, then we'll pay you back. So sometimes you don't have the money to spend first. Another good thing about JSEB, for instance, is if you do get a contract but don't have the capital to start whatever it is you need to do right now, they'll give it to you. There's a program that will help you with that. So that's huge. But you have to be JSEB plugged in. If you're not JSEB and you're not plugged in, then I don't think you have a lot of opportunities. I don't think the city does well for you just as a small business owner if you're not plugged into some organization larger than yourself. You can still do strategic alliances without JSEB. You can still apply for the government bids and all that stuff without JSEB. But the community of JSEB, the training and access that they have is huge. I still say the biggest thing that we need is access to capital in the city as a whole for small businesses.
I think that's fair.
Thank you so much.
Yep. I think I speak for JD when I say we obviously very happy to have you. Thank you for all the insights. Thank you for sharing your business. Thank you for talking about Jacksonville and how we can make it a better place. I also would like to speak on behalf of Jacksonville. We're happy you're here. We're happy that you are choosing Jacksonville as your home, especially for your business. And we're very grateful. Thank you.
Well, I'm blessed to be here, to be able to talk about the blessings that I have. And I'm blessed that you guys invited me here. Thank you so much for this opportunity to just kind of share what's been done in my life and my path and my journey and how it affects the city as a whole and our communities. And so I appreciate you guys for that. And if anybody wants to know more about BNX Business Advisors, you can go to bnxba.com. Our local phone number is 904-345-0070. And we're on all social media outlets. So I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you guys some more in the community. Anything I can do to help, please let me know.
Of course. And likewise, I'll make sure all of how people can reach you, I'll make sure it's in the show notes.
Absolutely.
To make ease of access there.
Thank you.
All right, JD, you got to send us out with a giddy up, sir.
All right, y'all make it a great day. Giddy up.
Giddy up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yara. Absolute pleasure.